This is the 21st season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. We got a guy on the show today who's done a lot of bass fishing. If you guys have not checked out yesterday's show, it was a recorded show, but big shout out to the bass staff, Mandy, all those people over there for kind of getting that coordinated with the CEO of Bass Angler Sportsman Society, Chase Anderson. A really kind of good behind-the-scenes look at what's going on over at Bassmaster. Chase sat down for an hour and really kind of talked through some of the thought process, some of the decision-making that they changed. We obviously focused on the split forward-facing sonar schedule for 2026, and then also I hadn't done a show since the Bassmaster Opens announced also a split schedule for the 2026 season to kind of mirror the Bassmaster Elite Series. But I kind of nerd out on a combination of the industry and what happens on the water. So a really good interview with Chase Anderson from Bassmaster, talking a little bit about the direction of where Bassmaster went, the heritage, how important all that is to him. You kind of get to know him. He's the captain that's running the ship as the man, not just in the suit that you see at the Bassmaster Classic or at ICAST. So if you are a fan of this sport and you want to have kind of a little bit of a deeper understanding, highly suggest you go watch that show. And then a lot of on the water stuff happening as well. You have another MLF team series that's going on. I found this kind of funny. So we had Ott Defo. We had Ott Defo and Drew Gill on the show, and they won the Black Bass World Championship down in South Africa fishing as a team. They won double gold. Another great BTL show where we had both of them on. And then they actually are competing against each other in Wisconsin in the MLF team series. And then they both made the cut. So now they're in the knockout. I can't remember what they call it, the knockout or the semifinal rounds. But there's a chance that they could end up on different teams fishing against each other for the team series title after last month winning in South Africa. Let's bring in the guest on today's show. We're going to cover a bunch of different topics, but I talked to Mike McClelland right after the Bassmaster Opens schedule and rules changed was announced. And I said, well, why don't you just come on the show and we'll talk about it. Also, Mike has been working behind the scenes on a couple different new baits. So let's bring Mike in right there. What's up, Mike?
Not a whole lot, man. Good to be here again. We talked about being on the water today, and I really kind of wished I was. I got out yesterday and beat around a little bit, caught some on a buzz bait, top water, and threw a minnow around a little bit, but it doesn't feel too bad just sitting here in the office looking at the lake.
Yeah. Now, how long are you in this house now? I remember we've had you on from your camper and then through the building of the house and all that. So you're in settled. It's been a couple years now.
Oh, we're looking at 7 years in this house.
Oh my gosh.
Time flies. It really does. We're on the road so much. I think people forget I got a place to live when I'm not on the road. So one of those scenarios that, we finished up. I think we moved in the fall of 18, may have been the fall of 9. No, it was the fall of 18. We moved in. Wow. So it's time has slid by.
You're one of the few guys that has done the camper thing with you and Stacy and then stuck with it. Like there's a lot of guys who do it for 2 or 3 years. And then all of a sudden you'll see F350 for sale with camper. But I mean, it seems I feel like at this point, you guys you're in with the camping lifestyle for the foreseeable future.
Well, it's really kind of weird. I mean, we both grew up as youngsters, in separate families, of course, camping with our parents, our grandparents, things of that nature. I think, when we went through that middle portion of our life, our late teens and, getting through school education growing up, trying to figure out what we were going to actually do. Maybe we both got away from it a little bit, but after her staying home, basically for the first 17 years, I traveled around the country with Jeff Crete and Jared Littner and, all my buddies renting VRBOs and staying in hotels. She stayed home for all those years. And it's like, when the boys finally all graduated, I'm like, what do you want to do now? You've put up with me for 17 years being gone. And she's like, I would really like to travel. And dude, we love it. I mean, excuse me. I think the thing that we like about it, Matt, is the fact that we don't necessarily have any obligations to be back home after an event. We don't have to come home for any kids. We don't necessarily need to be here. So a lot of times we just stay on the road between events and see different parts of the country and just enjoy life. I mean, we have truly got to see some really cool stuff over the past 5, 6, 7 years of traveling together.
You did a really cool thing with Pete Robbins, the half past first cast. They do a great job over there, and Pete kind of talks with you a little bit about that there. I'm going to share a picture there. There it is. That's the setup right there, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it too, is having the right setup. And I'm going to be honest, like Brett Hite's cab over camper is unbelievable for one or, maybe a husband and a wife. But when you got 2 dogs traveling with you like we do, and we can't go anywhere without our Millie and Molly, you got to have a little more room. And for us, I feel like we've got the perfect setup. It's a toy hauler. We've got it set up to where the rear patio, we connect the dog fence to it. The dogs can go in and out the garage or the toy hauler part of the RV. It just works out really good for us and what we do on the road.
You have a new one of those puppies is a newer edition. That one that was a leech that was sitting in the driver's side. She had her like head on the driver's side window and was just like.
Yeah, that one is actually that dog is actually a Goldador. That is actually Casey Ashley's golden bred lab. And we had just put a dog down and we got that dog. And then we lost another dog about a year and a half ago. And our most recent addition is Molly. She's a full golden. So we've got a Goldador and a golden. And it's like if you've got one dog and you ever have 2 dogs, you just can't be with one dog, because once a dog has a companion, I mean, they just like lose their whole sense of being when they don't have that companion anymore. And that's kind of how we've been throughout the course of traveling around. We've always had 2 dogs, and it's like when we lose one, we just got to get another one.
Do you drive the camper or do you drive the truck and boat?
I do pull the camper. I trust Stacy 100% with my truck and boat. I just, it's one of those deals. I mean, the big truck, the 3500, definitely pulls the camper probably as well or even better due to the fact it's a dually than, pulling the boat with a half-ton truck. But I just feel like there's a lot to be responsible for right there. If something ever does go wrong, I would rather it be me driving that one than her. We can replace a boat or an issue if something happens there. But you let a camper get away from you, you're talking about more than just some physical goods.
Yeah. You were on the Elite Series during that era. I'm trying to remember. So obviously Jason Quinn. And I think Randy Howell had one, and then Alton Jones had one of those ones that like was the camper in the front, and then there was a trailer that the boat went on the bottom, and then the truck actually went above the boat. Those never really like took off as far as like the all-in-one semi-rigs. That was a wild era. I mean, guys had those things that were like 130 feet that were wrapped, trapped. Do you remember all that stuff?
Yeah,
that was nuts.
Yeah, we stayed around and with a lot of those guys. Edwin Evers was another one that had one. Now, Edwin did his a little different. I don't know if you remember, but Edwin actually pulled his boat around with his tractor that he pulled his trailer with. Do you remember that?
I vaguely remember that, yeah.
He would put his boat in the actual trailer, and then when he unloaded his boat, he pulled it around with the big tractor, truck, and it was really kind of cool seeing all that go down. But yeah, Randy Howell, we all camped together. I mean, and that was an era that, we all kind of thought maybe this sport is going to grow to be what NASCAR is. And maybe we are all going to be traveling around in these. But as we all know, this industry is a phenomenal industry, but I just don't know that it can ever grow to that state. I mean, it was cool that it kind of had those moments of feeling that big, but it just kind of got away from us there for
those had to be like what, $500,000, $750,000 rigs? I
would say that, yeah, those rigs in that era were probably in that, $500,000 range, if not a little bit more.
I can't even find any photos of them, but I mean, it literally looked like a NASCAR team going down the highway on that, but it also looked like a major pain in the ass. Like when you wanted to do that because of all the weight, and then like literally it was like a semi truck cab. And then you had like all this, like you had to load. It just looked like a pain in the butt.
That's the one misconception a lot of people have about RV life. Honest to goodness, Matt, when I pull in with a fifth wheel, especially now, there's a little bit more to, the guys that have the cab overs because they do have to unload it off their truck. But I can pull into an RV site, unhook my fifth wheel, hit auto level on it, and truly be set up, ready to rock and roll for the week in 30 to 45 minutes. And, when you think about pulling into a motel, carting your stuff in and out of the hotel, worrying about boat parking, it's just so much nicer living the RV life than it is being dealing with that. And even with BRBOs, I mean, that's the biggest thing about BRBOs is there's some really nice places to lease and rent around the country, but they don't always have suitable parking, especially if you're trying to split that up between 2 or 3 guys. When you get there, they just don't have ample parking for 2, 3, 4 boats.
I don't know why I can't find any of these photos.
You
would think I've looked up Randy Howell. I've looked up Jason Quinn. I can't find any of them. And then now Skeet's F650 isn't on the BPT anymore, as he just retired. So yeah. I guess the era of the mega rig has officially come to an end. I think that was one of the smartest moves that Skeet ever did, was start with that F650 and then stick with it. Like, I bet he's made a lot of money just walking in and saying, this is what it costs to get it on the side. And, all you have to have is one sponsor. Everyone stops in the parking lot and takes a picture next to the F650.
I've known Skeet a long time. I met Kim and Skeet back when they were, it seems like they were just getting married, traveling around in his old white van. And, Skeet is not only a phenomenal angler. I mean, he's accomplished almost everything there is to accomplish in the world of bass fishing, but absolutely a marketing genius. I mean, when you look at the way Skeet conducted business throughout his career in this industry, I admire the heck out of what he did. I mean, he took full advantage of every opportunity he ever had. And that's one thing I tell a lot of young anglers today. Just from the experience and being around for the years that I have. I mean, I had this conversation with Laker Howell after he won Leech Lake just a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. You've got to take advantage of the situation while you have the momentum. And I look back at my career, and it's easy to do as a young angler or just, a successful angler, getting comfortable winning money and thinking, man, everything's going great. I'm making more money than I ever have. But if you don't take advantage of marketing and promoting that while you have the ability to do so, you miss opportunities. And that's one thing I will say Skeet never did. He didn't ever miss any of those opportunities.
Yeah. Did that just warm your heart to see Laker Howell win on Leech on largemouth with a frog, or was it like a dagger to the heart since I'm sure you were out there targeting largemouth as well?
Yeah, no, it did. I was glad to see it get one on largemouth. I mean, I hated the fact that it's exposed now because, not that it wasn't exposed last year, but now people go up there with the true vision that, hey, this can be one with largemouth, especially after we have seen what all of the pressure on the smallmouth does to them. Mm-hmm. It's an incredible fishery. I actually said, I think in my text, I said, I'm I congratulate the heck out of you, but I'm really kind of sad that you won it with largemouth, and, but it is what it is. And I was tickled to see Laker, to win it, to get to go to the Classic. And I didn't keep up with the final event. Did Randy end up making the Classic? Are they both going to be in the Classic, or did he not?
Don't think so.
I don't remember if he did or didn't. I know it was real close. But
where's AOY standing?
That's one of those things. I mean, you know my son well, and he, works as a sales rep in the industry now. And, that was one thing. We did get to travel for a couple years fishing the opens together. And it's really cool to see, Randy and Laker now. And, you've got the Robinsons and, Alton and Alton Jr. It's cool to see these kids that we grew up camping around now competing on the circuit with us. I mean, that's another thing that's been neat about the camping aspect of it. I spent many a night in a campground with Aaron Martins, and some of my best memories of Aaron, aren't necessarily on the water. They're the time we spent in the campground just having down to earth, real life conversations.
I can't even find Randy. I don't think he made it.
I know he had to have a good finish at
Why could I not find him on the standings here? You ever done that where you're looking for one person on the standings, like to see how they did, and you literally scroll through individual first names and you cannot find them for hours?
And you swear they were not on.
Yeah, he ended up finishing 70th. So he's actually going to be. Well, I don't know. He might be fishing. He might be fishing the EQs. I haven't seen the list of that. Quite frankly, this is like the first series, like where fish should qualify for the EQs, top 50 get in, and then you fish the final 3, top 10 go to the lead series. This is the first series, I guess, that I've fished where there's like the qualifying for it, and I missed it. And I didn't realize the competitor in me is still very much alive, Mike, because I'm very salty that I'm not at Lake Champlain right now. And quite frankly, I've got good buddies that are fishing it, and I hope they come in with 25-pound bags of largemouth or smallmouth from Champlain. I got no desire to closely follow those EQs, Mike, because I really wanted to be there. I will have to say, now that you've brought it up, it's been kind of a dagger this week, just realizing that, and we had such a weird schedule this year, Matt, with the weather. I mean, we fished 2 one-day tournaments. I think one of the other events we fished, we had a day canceled. I mean, it was just hard to get in the rhythm this year. And I mean, it's no fault of bass. It's just Mother Nature. I mean, we had some really weird situations. We fished 6 days in the entire season, Mike.
Yeah. And when you look at what one fish here or there would have done, we both would not be doing this show today. We would be at Lake Champlain with our buddies, trying to figure out how to catch some smallmouth and largemouth up there. And yeah, it's been a while since I have got to the end of the year, and I'm not fishing the final events to try to get somewhere that I want to be. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a tough dagger. Now I do have one bright side of things. I did have one good finish this year, and qualified to go to the Ultimate Angler Championship.
Walk me through that, Mike. So I've heard of a number of guys on it. I've talked about it, but I don't have a real good grasp on this Ultimate Angler Championship, but it keeps popping up, and it doesn't matter what trail or what it is. It seems like a $500,000 derby on Gunnersville, no forward-facing sonar.
Well, it's actually $1 million derby. It's $500,000 to win. It pays $30,000 through, I believe, 10th place. Top 50 get paid. It's just like any other tournament. Well, I shouldn't say it's just like. It's a cut format. There is a 200-man full field that will fish on the 9th and the 10th of October, and then they cut it to the top 50. The thing that's incredible about this event, Matt, and I'm really shocked that it hasn't been a little bit better promoted. This truly may be the largest assemblance of the best, the most well-known anglers that have ever been assembled in one place to fish for a purse like this. I mean, yes, you've got the Classic, and you've got, the Red Crest and all of these big events that culminate with the top 50 anglers from that circuit. But like you just said a while ago, the Ultimate Angler Championship is basically all anglers that fish everything from BFL, Toyota Series, the Opens, the Tour, the Elites, Toyota Series. You could qualify by paying a membership to the Ultimate Angler. Yeah. to Unified Pros. And then if you were the highest finishing paid member of the tournament that you finished in, then you qualified for this event. So it's a cool deal. I'm shocked that it has not been promoted better. I really am. It's pretty mind-boggling.
Okay, here it is.
Yeah,
I found the website. So I mean, they have like all sorts of stuff that goes.
There's going to be a concert. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Barbecues. I mean, it's a big deal. They've got a pro-am, a golf tournament that takes place on the Monday before we start practicing on Tuesday. Is that the? Yeah,
this is the list of anglers.
Yeah, that's the list of anglers. Okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, and I really believe that part of it was a lot of anglers were being selfish and didn't want to tell their buddies that, hey, you need to join. I mean, I truly believe that's a big part of it. Jared Littner actually called me, man, it's been a year and a half ago, and said, hey, this deal is forming. He's like, you need to make sure you join as soon as you can start paying your membership, because, you know, there's not going to be it's going to take a while before guys realize this is going on. And I think that's the biggest thing that happened, was guys actually were selfish, not telling other people about it, because they wanted to make sure they qualified before their buddy found out about it. But yeah, you look at the list. I mean, and I haven't talked to Skeet. I mean, I don't know if Skeet paid his membership, but I mean, you know, there's going to be a tremendous number of anglers in this that are the household names of all circuits of fishing. And there's going to be some of the biggest names when it comes to your regional anglers. You know, there's going to be people that recognize, you know, the guys that kick butt at home too, because they've allowed guys from all over the country to qualify for this deal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the names are insane. You've got a lot of classic champs, a lot of David Dudley, Alton Jones, Chris, Hank, Mueller Loberg, all the names, Rojas, ton. Yeah, interesting. But it is a no forward-facing sonar event, right?
Yes, it is no forward-facing sonar, no unconventional baits. I mean, there's no A-rigs allowed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read that in the rules. No A-rigs. So it is truly, you know, old school fishing. We can, the only thing that is a little different about this, there's only a 7 or 8 day off limits period, I believe. And, you know, it's going to be kind of that old school deal where there's going to be a whole bunch of guys show up down there next week practicing, you know, a week before the event actually takes place, which we can utilize our technology, which I fully intend to do next week during practice. We can utilize our forward-facing sonar, everything that we have at our hands. And then during the actual event, they will, I guess they're giving us the lock boxes that they're using, you know, in Major League Fishing to shut our boxes down. And we all go at it old school.
Did you have to, I saw a couple of my buddies who made it. Did you have to like wrangle up a pal to attend that with you? So I was thinking dude, I should freaking sign up for that since I'm not fishing in it, and just go and sit in the boat and watch guys fish Guntersville in the fall. Like, I was like, that would be awesome.
I do believe that they are still trying to get some observers, marshals, whatever you want to say. The observers can actually fish with us during practice. So I've connected with a gentleman from down in that part of the world, down in Alabama, a guy that somebody suggested that I contact. And, you know, I told him, I'm like, you know, if you'll do this for me, I'll be happy to take you fishing for a couple of days. He's probably going to fish with me one day next week during the off limits, or during the, you know, before it goes off limits. And that way he and I can actually, you know, talk freely, and I can try to explain to him, you know, what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and things of that nature, without feeling like you're breaking any rules. And then, you know, when he comes back to observe for the tournament, he'll actually be paired with different pros. He won't be in the boat with me once he gets there. So, you know, it'll be a situation where, just like you said, I mean, it's going to be a cool deal for guys that want to learn how to fish Guntersville that time of the year, to just take in the knowledge that we all give them for 3 days of fishing on Guntersville.
We're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, you mentioned schedules, you mentioned technology, and the Bassmaster Opens recently just announced straight from Bass headquarters, September 10th, the schedule and some technology rules. So when we come back, we'll talk with 8-time bass winner, Mike McClelland, about the 2026 schedule and some of his thoughts on that. It is BTL on a Tuesday. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Pro Bass Adventures is reinventing Mexico bass fishing. With boats equipped with 12-inch Garmin units and LiveScope Plus, free loaner fishing rods, and no-cost airport transportation, Pro Bass Adventures is proudly putting you in the best position for success. Pro Bass Adventures has lodges on Lake Baccarat and Lake El Salto, Mexico's two best trophy largemouth bass lakes. Visit ProBassAdventures.com or email ProBassAdventures@gmail.com. The official Mexico fishing lodge of Bass Talk Live.
At Beatdown Outdoors, we know you depend on your gear to hold up in any condition. We built for that. We test for that. In fact, we pride ourselves in that. Because we know when the time comes to test your gear, you aren't going to take it easy, so we won't. We build premium, made-in-the-USA products that you can rely on in the moments when your equipment should be the last thing on your mind.
All right, welcome back, BTL on a Tuesday. I always like to end the commercial segments if I have an angler on who happens to be in said commercial prior to the end of the segment. So that's the brand new commercial for Beatdown, which quite frankly is a pretty badass commercial.
It definitely is. And I mean, when you see the things that we did during the shooting of that commercial, I mean, it completely speaks for what Beatdown is all about. I mean, the durability, the just everything, the adjustability. You can do anything and everything you want to do with Beatdown mounts. And it's crazy to think where this industry has gone. I was actually thinking about, events that, back in the day when you used to actually get on the water and cover events with bass, 12, 15, 18 years ago. I mean, I remember you pulling up to me one day. I was having a great day at Kentucky Lake and I'm actually just kind of practicing and, I've got my one, unit up front that I'm looking at 2D imagery on and, I'm just scanning around looking for fish and I see one, on 2D and I drop down and catch it. And, it's just kind of like, you just saw that fish and dropped on him and caught him. And I'm like, yeah. And to see where technology has taken us now with LiveScope and running 4 units and everything that we're doing, we couldn't get by without, what Beatdown's doing. I mean, you and I are both testing a brand new 0 degree mount right now for Beatdown.
I didn't know if we could say anything. You said it. You're way more to Beatdown, so you could say it. I'd not get in trouble.
We're always testing and designing stuff.
No, it's pretty cool though. It came in the mail, and I went over to Scott at the Bass Tank. I said, I got a new toy. I said, I want to try this thing out. So we actually, that's actually how you ended up on BTL here. Is I called you to say, hey, if you worked with it, what are your thoughts on it? How are the install, the whole 9 yards and stuff? And then I was like, why don't you just come on? Especially after then, especially once that open schedule. But no, did you go blue and yellow champion days, blue and yellow to the orange and black hefty? Was that the transition?
That was the transition. And honestly, it was just, that was really, at that point, I think Skeet had already maybe done his own branding, with the all yellow. And Champion had always kind of tried to keep all of us in that blue and yellow color scheme. It wasn't just myself at one point. Mm-hmm. It was Skeet and myself and the gentleman from, John Murray and I can't remember the guy's name from out west. He won Clark's Hill one year. Super good guy. Just blanked on his name.
Not Jason Williamson.
No, not Jason Williamson.
One Clarks Hill one. Kevin Worth?
No. He won the first time we went to Clarks Hill. He was a Western angler.
Oh, Mike
Reynolds.
Mike Reynolds.
Yeah, Mike Reynolds. So we all wore the blue and yellow, but during that era that you're talking about, that everything went crazy in the elites, that was when I landed the hefty deal, and that was when I made my attempt to brand myself in something different, bright, bold, and I love the orange, and I tried to carry it forward. But when I signed my deal with Cabela's, whenever that deal came along, that was when I think I got away from the orange and, got back into kind of a team formatted situation where, then I ran the Cabela's Geico Stratus there for a number of years.
Yeah. So then you went Champion, Stratus, Ranger.
Yes, sir.
The Stratus thing had what you had: Larry Nixon, yourself, Skeet, and that was like a 2 or 3 year, 2 year deal, I think.
It was about a 3 or 4 year. It was originally Skeet and I were in the old Champion Stratus. It was called the Stratus Elite. And then when they truly killed the Champion boat as we knew it, they moved me into a Stratus. Skeet went ahead and made the transition to Ranger.
Yep.
And Larry Nixon was in a Stratus. Dan Moorhead was in a Stratus. I mean, there were a number of us that ran Stratuses for up until they actually quit building that hull.
Yeah.
And then I did transition back into Ranger, which I started my career in a Ranger. I started my first Ranger. I picked up my first 374 Ranger at the plant in Flippin in 1988. So I ran a Ranger from 1988 through the early 90s until I actually signed my first deal with Champion.
And then Champion, basically, they had the molds for the hull, and then a variety of different companies. Like I know Charger got one of the hulls. I know Bass Cat has some of the hulls. So then that hull, and then they put their your configuration, top cap, their spin on it. So that was still an iconic boat. Like I'm sure you still have people that come up and talk to you about the old Champion.
Oh, yeah. I mean, White River Marine actually still owns the Champion name, and I mean, I guess there's really no patents left there, but they own the name, and there could still be something done with it someday if somebody chose to. I don't think that will ever happen. I mean, we've changed so much, and so many boat companies now are all building very, very comparable performing boats. I mean, that's just it. Everybody has things about a boat that they like, and every boat has their neat features that draw certain people to that particular boat. But all the boats built today, Nitro, all the White River Marine brand boats are phenomenal boats, and everybody's building boats that are really nice out there today. There's no doubt.
All right, let's get back to the schedule and split electronic schedule. You are, and I'll speak on your behalf.
You'll speak on my behalf.
You probably did not want to find yourself in the middle of the depths of the Bassmaster Opens. I mean, ideally, you flip, you catch, you're on the Elite Series. See you later, losers. But here we are. And it's shocking to me. Some guys that have come through a Hackney, a Jason Christie, even a Scott Martin when he did it, and Ike Nelly, and then I understand some of them had legend acceptance, but you look at him and you're like, golly, you just came in, top 3'd it, and you're off to greener pastures. But you look at a Russ Lane, a Brett Height, a Randall Tharp, a number of these anglers who have millions of dollars and a lot of time. I mean, they have trophy rooms. 4 of them have competed for the wins, and you're in that group of veteran anglers who's kind of a little bit quicksand stuck in the Bassmaster Opens. Is your thoughts, opinions on that? You're always positive when I see you on it, but I mean, you're deep into the Opens now, Mike. You're deep in.
I am, and like you said, I mean, I hate it that I am trapped there right now. I truly still believe that if it's meant to be, and I truly, I've got a lot of faith in just things work out the way they're supposed to work out. I truly enjoy the competition, though. And if it wasn't for the fact that I am still ate up with competition, I might be thinking about trying to do something different. But I truly love the competition. I love the competition that the Opens have allowed me to be involved in the last couple of years because, Matt, let's just face it. I was not a good every fish format angler. That wasn't my style. I never fished that way throughout the course of my career. So, when I made the decision to try to requalify for the elites, I have truly enjoyed the competition on the elites and fishing the tournaments. The difference is there. And, we talked about this in one of the shows I was on last year. I was one of the first anglers that ever won with forward facing sonar. I won an Open here at Table Rock utilizing Panoptics in 2017, but I didn't truly grasp where the technology was going to go. When we got Live Scope, it was like the technology almost ran me over because what I learned with Panoptics grew to such a more, the level that it changed from Panoptics to Live Scope. It was almost like I just couldn't understand how good it was. And I'll have to admit, after fishing tournaments for 30 plus years with 2D and traditional fishing, it's been a hard transition for me to make to just go full Live Scope. I do it at almost every event that it is capable of catching fish using Live Scope. I have been out there and tried to figure out where the better ones are doing it, but I'm just so much more comfortable fishing the way I've always fished. So I'm looking forward to this split schedule next year. My best finish this year, as well as last year on the Opens, were at lakes where Live Scope really wasn't a player. When I can tune that out and just focus on fishing the way I have fished for 35 or 40 years, I feel like my odds of catching them are probably a lot better. Not that I can't catch them using Live Scope. I just can't stay focused the way I need to when I'm doing it.
The schedule comes out. One of the things that they changed so you're in for 2026. It sounds like
more than likely
all 8. Okay.
Yeah. I'm still looking at options of what other deals might be available. I've thought about, it would be cool to go fish some NPFL, but I don't know that that's going to fit the schedule this year. We haven't seen the NPFL schedule come out yet, but I've already heard that there is potential conflicts in the Opens and the NPFL. So more than likely at this point, I'm not done trying to get back to the elites. So I more than likely will be a two division open angler again this year.
The Bassmaster press release. So top 50 in each division still move on to the EQs in 2026, but they added an overall division, which Bassmaster has toyed with. They have to try to make something that's even for both anglers, that allows anglers to move on, but also rewards an angler in a position such as yourself, who is a professional angler, who is using their business and their platform to make a living on. So your thoughts on adding the top 35 overall in addition to the 50 from each division for a guy who has a camper and 2 dogs and a wife that likes to travel with them? I would have to think, like, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, Bassmaster is looking at this and saying, these are the anglers that are serious, that want with it. We're going to reward them with those top 35 spots. That has to sit well with you going into next season, that they made that little wrinkle to it.
It does. And, I would have to believe it would be interesting. And I'm sure the people at Bass probably have this information. I don't know if it's capable of figuring out, but I would almost bet a lot of the names you mentioned just a few minutes ago, myself, Brett Hike, Russ Lane, which Russ Lane, he's moved on to he
had a good year.
Yeah, he had a great year this year, but I think you would have seen almost that whole group of anglers that is doing exactly what you just said. Anglers that are entrenched in this business, have been doing it for a number of years, advancing on to the EQ qualifiers with one more opportunity to get back to the elites. I would like to think that my time spent at the elites and my time spent in this industry means a little bit of something. I know that I don't have a provisional or whatever, allows you to, what's the exemption? What do they call it? Legends or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Legends exemption.
I did never achieve, the goals that you have to achieve to get there. But, like you said earlier, $2 million in career earnings and, 8 wins. I would like the opportunity to try to get back into the elites and finish my career,
It's just off the top of my head. So it seems like Bassmaster will come out with banger Bassmaster Open schedules, and then they'll have like one of the schedules where it's like all the boat companies got together and we're like, all right, we need to sell more lower units. And then the prop companies come in and go, hey, we're kind of low on props. And then they're like, what?
That's how you look at it.
And then they're like, okay, Arkansas River, Red River, Louisiana Delta, Ross Barnett, Toledo Bend. Like, you guys are good for the next 8 months. Like, service crews, your jobs are safe. Fiberglass, your jobs are safe. And then it's like all the psychologists and all the like mental health experts are like, hey, we need like anglers to come in because they're just completely destroyed mentally and physically. But this seems like a fairly I'll read it. Kissimmee, Lake Eufaula, Alabama, Lake Norman, Lake Erie is one division, Division 1, second division, Sam Rayburn, Grand Lake, Pickwick, and La Crosse, Wisconsin. It's got a little bit of everything for everybody there, Mike.
It really does, and you may have to help me. I had the schedule pulled up a while ago, and it's gone down now. But when you look at the way they have done the schedule this year, and a lot of the forward-facing sonar thing almost can be controlled a little bit by where they do schedule events. They're trying to do this for not just the anglers, but for the fans. Again, I love to go out and chase them around. I was out chasing around with a minnow yesterday with forward-facing sonar. It's fun. It's cool. But it's also fun for the fans of this sport to watch fishing from both perspectives. And I think it's going to be really cool to see how this breaks down. Now, when you look at which tournaments forward-facing sonar is allowed in, I don't know if they actually did a coin flip or if they just chose the ones that they felt like, okay, this one needs to be forward-facing sonar. This one we can do without it. So Kissimmee is not, correct?
Correct. So the way they did it was they started one division with it, one division without it, and then they alternated it. That way, like if you were flipping and you're fishing all of them, it could end up catawampus where you have one division with 3 and one division with only with 3 the other way. So they kind of had to alternate it. So they started out, with the Kissimmee chain without with no forward facing. So in Division 1, the Kissimmee chain January 29th and then April 30th through May 2nd on Lake Norman, no forward facing sonar on those, with Eufaula, Alabama and Lake Erie out of Buffalo allowing it.
Yeah. And, that's going to be kind of interesting. And I know that Buffalo needed to be a forward-facing sonar event. For that place to show what the true capabilities of that place can put out, it needed to be a forward-facing sonar event. Lake Eufaula, that event, forward-facing sonar will definitely play, but there are going to be guys that do well at Eufaula without utilizing forward-facing sonar. The other 2 events, Kissimmee is Kissimmee. Would there have been fish caught using forward-facing sonar? Absolutely. But it's just going to make it an old-school Florida fishing event is what it's going to do. And then what was the other one? Lake
Norman, April 30th through May 2nd.
Yeah, Lake Norman will be a little bit interesting. I've only fished the lake, I think, one time in competition throughout the course of my career, and it's got a lot of spotted bass in it, but it's got largemouth. There's going to be a lot of fish caught on boat docks, but there will be some of us guys that still understand how to utilize 2D sonar that get out there and catch them with 2D sonar, fishing vertically and doing the things that we've always done prior to having the opportunity to use forward-facing sonar.
And then Division 2, which I think is a very interesting division, February 19th through 21st, Sam Rayburn, April 23rd through 25th, Grand Lake, then May 20th through 22nd, Pickwick, and then in the middle of June, the Upper Mississippi, which is just La Crosse, Wisconsin. You can use forward-facing sonar on Rayburn and Pickwick, but not on Grand or the upper Mississippi?
Yeah, when I look at that particular schedule, I mean, just for all the years that I have fished Rayburn throughout my career without forward-facing sonar, and my experience there last year with forward-facing sonar.
You were hating life, Mike. I rolled up on you in that pocket, and you were hating life so much. I felt so bad for you.
Well, it's just one of those deals. You knew you had to do it there. And I caught a limit relatively easy. Now, neither one of us knew we were going to be fishing a one-day derby at that point.
Yeah, no,
so,
100%.
I knew that I had to catch a limit, but for me to catch a good one in that event, I had way more success during practice. Now, there was a lot of weather changes. We had massive rain. The lake came up, stuff muddied up, things happened. But, I'd had a pretty successful practice, catching them on a swim jig and catching them on the new bait that I had just got the first prototypes of the new McDart for Rayburn and caught a lot of good fish during practice. A lot of the water muddied up, but I would have loved to have gone to Rayburn and fished Rayburn the way I have fished it for, 20 plus years of my career. It is going to be an event that there will be guys that are successful both ways. I don't remember, but I almost feel like the young man that won that event this past year did not catch him using forward-facing sonar.
I don't remember. I know I weighed in my 13 pounds, hit the road, and never thought about it again.
Yeah, that was pretty much me. I think I was right there with you. But again, we didn't know we were fishing a one-day event. As long as we get good weather conditions and a guy can, scope when he needs to scope and, go fish some bushes or grass. I think it's going to be a fun event. Pickwick is going to be interesting. The last time I was there was for a Major League Fishing Invitational. We were utilizing forward-facing sonar, but the majority of the fish I caught, I used forward-facing sonar in that event. I had a relatively good event, but I caught the majority of the fish I caught on a shad spawn. But once the shad moved off the shoals, I was able to chase them with forward-facing sonar and continue to catch fish throughout the course of the day, even after the visible shad spawn kind of went away. So that'll be an interesting event to be able to utilize it.
And then Grand is, to me, is 50-50. Like you could be 7 layers deep in willows, flipping them up. You could be pulled down on a bedfish, or you could be early post spawn going, man, I wish I had forward facing to see where my minnow or my plug or my drop shot or my jig is going. So that's, to me, is a 50-50 on whether that's going to play into, the hands of a local like you who spent a lot of time out there, or even me who fairly, knows the lake well, or whether that'll be a absolute non-factor.
Well, I think the whole thing about it is Grand is one of those lakes that has so many fish in it. And when I say fish, I'm talking trash fish, drum, white bass, hybrids, that it
blue
isn't.
Cats.
Yeah, catfish. I mean,
blue
it is.
cat. There's more blue cats in Grand than it.
Yeah, it's one of those lakes that you can catch them till you're tired of catching them on forward-facing sonar, but I mean, honest to goodness, I think you'll agree with me. The majority of them that you catch are not going to be the ones you want.
I don't know why they bite either on Grand. The drum bite everything you throw at. The white bass, the hybrids obviously bite, and the blue cats bite. It's not like one of those we go to tons of different lakes. You cast them, you're like, oh, those clearly aren't bass. On Grand, they set up like bass, and they're aggressive. Like, I don't know why they eat everything. Every species eats everything you throw at it on Grand, which is have you ever been to another lake where the trash fish are that aggressive across the board?
No, I totally agree with you. It is one of the most phenomenal lakes as far as just the fact that they stay hungry all the time. And like you said, all species. I mean, I've caught more drum at Grand on a jerk bait and a jig and, things that and not to say that they don't eat those baits, but just it's unbelievable. You catch them fishing traditionally. In fact, the last classic I fished at Grand, that was one of the biggest struggles I had, was how many drum I was catching on a jerkbait versus bass. It was mind boggling. I just think they were actually more aggressive than the bass were at certain times. But one thing about it, I mean, the old jig is going to come into play at Grand Lake. I mean, we all know that. It's no secret. And this is a new jig that I just got done designing for Big Bite. It's called the McMoney jig. It's, if you can see, I got to find my camera. I don't know where it's at. But
everything's opposite. It's like the first time backing up a trailer when you're showing. The only person who has mastered showing baits on the screen is Frank Scalish.
Okay, so if you look at the head, it is kind of a cross between a standard flipping style head and a football. It's got a pointed head, but it's got the shoulders of the football head. It's weighted down the shaft of the hook, so a lot of the weight is transferred throughout the bait. It allows the head size to stay smaller. We're making the jig with a full skirt. There's nothing I hate more than pulling a jig out of a package and it not being trimmed the way I want, or not being able to trim it the way I want it. So that jig's going to come packaged like that. And I mean, I think you and I and every other angler out there has their little things they like to do to trim a jig. And I think we all trim them different. I can do anything I want with this jig with one jig out of a package. So I'm pretty excited about what I'm going to be able to do with the McMoney jig this next year across the country.
Are you throwing a little bit of wire twist on that? Is that your addition to the jig?
The jig actually comes with a hand-tied skirt. You can see it's got a hand-tied skirt. Yeah, every jig that you buy out of the package.
Why do all the Ozark guys tie their jig with that? Is it copper? Like, it doesn't matter who it is. I've gotten some jigs from Justin. Maybe I maybe roomed with Brad Hallman for a couple years. I've known you for a lot. Let's just say I've been around some Ozark jigs in that 3/16 to half ounce size. Every single guy who's worth their salt on it has that copper or whatever that is tie on their skirt.
It truly is just it's an easier method to tie, because if you try to tie with string, or I've never even used string or whatever they tied with. It's just much more complicated. The copper just allows you, once you learn how to tie your own jigs, you can tie very quick with the copper because it's pliable. It bites though when you twist it, and it doesn't break. So that to me is the reason you see so many guys using copper in the Ozarks, is just simply the ease of tying. It has nothing to do with the copper flash or anything that some people try to put it up to be, but it's just a good, easy way of tying a jig. And it makes the skirt bunch different than a hole-in-one type skirt, because the skirt actually flares different on the head when you tie it with copper or any tie.
The other thing that I've noticed, particularly like you and Jeremy Lawyer, and we'll bring Hallman into the mix. He's still even though he doesn't fish anymore. You're not a fan of the light one, like the light jigs. Like it's 3/8, half, 5 ounce. Lawyer will like punch a 2.5 ounce jig with like a full size brush hog. Like some of the stuff I've seen him flipping around there, it's just absolutely obnoxious. But you guys all are fans of a little bit heavier jig than I think the average guy likes to throw.
The whole thing is, and it's not just us in this area. I mean, Chris Lane absolutely blew my mind a few years back, and it's been a number of years, but Chris Lane, came to Table Rock, and I mean, he's skipping and pitching and flipping a 3/4 ounce jig, here on Table Rock. And I'm like, that's crazy, dude. And he caught him. So much of it's reaction. And I think, that's another thing that forward-facing sonar has taught us so much about these fish. I mean, when you look at the good forward-facing sonar anglers, they fish very aggressively for the most part. When they get a fish that is hot on their bait, they don't sit there and keep that bait right in front of that fish. They're trying to make that fish react to that bait in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, the jig that we're building with Big Bite right now, the McMoney jig, I mean, we're only offering 2 sizes initially. We've got a half and a 5/8. Mm-hmm. So, that is my go-to 90% of the time is a half. I don't care if I'm fishing a foot and a half of water. A 1/2 ounce jig is generally my go-to. We are probably going to come with a 3/4 and a 1 ounce. I don't know that we will even add a 3/8, because in my opinion, there's just not a lot of use for a 3/8. unless you're going to throw a jig on super light line and possibly spinning tackle, in my opinion.
I know I'm missing one of the key names here, and I just cannot remember it. But when I think jigs like that, like I think Eakins, I think the Hibden family, I think Browers, I think you. I'm missing one of them. There's some legendary jig guy in the Ozarks that I'm also missing there. Am I missing anybody as far as like kind of I would say the pioneers of that Ozark style finesse jig?
There's so many. I mean, yeah, I'm sure we're both missing, guys. Terry Thomas, I don't know if that name
that was on
familiar to you, but yeah, Terry Thomas for a number of years. I mean, Terry was one of the anglers back when I very first started traveling fishing tournaments that allowed me to travel with him a little bit and fish with him a little bit. And Terry taught me more about a jig as well as Jim Akins, just the things that I learned from those two guys alone, I guess probably had a lot to do with my jig fishing and where it went. But all those guys, the Hibdens for years. I mean, Guido, Dion, Peyton, every one of them have, made a living with a jig in their hand.
And then we wrap up to get back to the schedule. I really like that little tour down there. And actually, I don't know what your schedule is, but I'd love to take a break and come back and talk a little bit about the design, because you do have a couple of newer baits out designed. But that upper Mississippi River, La Crosse, Wisconsin, to me, great fishery. But man, it seems like it is just getting absolutely pounded year after year by all the different tournament trails. And I don't know if it's just cyclical. I think we saw that in Grand where everyone thought, everyone's going to Grand and the fishing sucks. But I think it was just year classes of fish with no grass in it. And I think we're going to see a big resurgence of 15 to 18 pound bags on Grand. We're kind of starting to see it now. You can get out on Grand now. You can see the schools of hundreds of 13 to 15 inch fish. I talked with you about that too, but I think, the Mississippi River, I don't know if it's that cycle or if, man, those fish, every fish in those three pools has now seen a frog and a chatterbait and a flipping bait, and now they've seen a minnow and a drop shot and a wacky rig.
It is hard, and I'll bring one more thing into the mix there. And I was told by a guy that I got to know, I actually was when I sold boats years ago as a sales rep, one of my pro staff guys was one of the dominant anglers up there on the Mississippi, especially in that La Crosse area. And he actually told me that after we started having those major events there, that after the first time or two the elites went, that the local population eyes were opened up to how many bass were truly in that place. And he said that they really, really started putting the hurt on them in the winter fishing through the ice. So those fish winter in the backwater areas off
catch and release into the grease. Is that where you're going with this?
Exactly. And he said that, once people realized that the population of bass that was there, they kind of focused. I'm not going to say they quit trying to catch perch, but they started catching and keeping a lot more bass through the course of the winter. And he truly believed that had a big impact on the population and especially the size. Let's face it, guys that are going to catch them through the ice or catch them to eat them, they would just as soon keep the biggest ones as the smallest ones. And when you start catching a bunch of big ones and take them out of a place, it makes a difference. That place is still a phenomenal fishery. I know the last couple of years I have fished up there. I've been right on that cusp of, I've caught a ton of keepers. Catch, 20 to 25, 30 keepers a day, but it's like, I just can't get to that 18 pound mark where you need to be to make the difference. And it's full of fish, but again, it could be year class. And, I think high water's got a lot to do with it too, Matt. The years that I think that thing was really, really in its prime, it was like, it seemed like the Mississippi River flooded year after year after year. And they've actually gone a few years now without any major high water throughout the summer or in the spring when those fish spawn. So that could have a big role in it as well.
Do you think my theory on Grand is right? Or do you think that the move with the boat ramp in 2013 to Wolf in coordination with the ability to bring the national tours actually has kind of changed the fish behavior, impacted that? Or do you think that the zebra mussels in 15 that got into there also had to play? Or is it just a cyclical thing? Like I just remember when I first moved here, it was like you could literally drop your trolling motor anywhere, pick up a mid-diving crankbait on any secondary point and have 18 pounds and know that you are still in 100th in a Nichols.
Yeah, it's everything that you just mentioned. I mean, the pressure, I think, definitely played a major role. You know, just the fact that every major circuit for 5 or 6 years, all of their championships were there. You know, when I say the regionals, you know, all the
Toyota championships there.
Yeah, we're going to Grand. And then you had the major events going on. The biggest part of it is educating the everyday angler how to catch them. I mean, when live coverage and, you know, everything happened the way it did during the period of the elites, we exposed how to catch those fish so effectively that a lot of guys that used to go out and have somewhat successful days started really, really catching them. And we just educated fish all over the lake. Now, I do believe that, you know, they've done a stocking program over there that, you know, I don't know if the F1s or F2s, whatever they put in there, really have been a part of taking hold. But, you know, I fished a Nichols with my son last year. I subbed for his normal partner, and we won the thing with almost 24 pounds and barely won it. Since then, there's been tournaments last year over there where it took 8 pounds to win. So the lake has definitely come back around, and I don't know exactly what the reasoning is for it. If it is the fact that there hasn't been as much pressure, you know, Grand went through a couple years of really high water too. So there's a lot of things and variables that come into play there. But, you know, Grand Lake's going to be a phenomenal tournament. I think as long as the weather doesn't do something crazy while we're there, that tournament's going to be a very interesting tournament. And, you know, I know you and I are going there with a lot of confidence and feeling like, you know, we got an upper hand in that event. But there's so many good anglers fishing these opens now that it's going to be an event that truly anybody could sneak up and win.
Does that surprise you in your 2 years in the opens, just how much productive water is covered up? I mean, it'd been a decade. It'd been a long time since you'd fish a AAA level kind of tour.
Yeah. It is pretty shocking because, you know, and we've said it for years and years. I mean, the good anglers all find the right stuff, and they're all effective in catching them now. You know, I'm not taking away from anybody's abilities, but before forward-facing sonar, Matt, there were only, you know, a percentage of anglers that truly understood how to utilize their mapping and how to utilize their side imaging and their 2D to find them the way we found them then. Where now with forward-facing sonar, as long as you have that grasp, I mean, anybody is capable of going out there and finding them now. And I'm not saying that just because you find them, you can catch them, but it's a whole lot easier to find them now with the aid of forward-facing sonar than it ever was back in the day. And there's just a lot more anglers now that are capable of catching them on a regular basis than we've ever seen in the history of the sport.
You good for a quick R&D segment, or you gotta run?
Yeah, no, I can hang on.
Well, let me throw in another quick round of BTL sponsors, and when we come back, we'll dive into a little behind the scenes R&D with Mike McClelland. It's a BTL on a Tuesday. We'll be back right after this.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, the truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water, whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
I fish in some of the worst elements across the country. Spring,
That's a giant, dude.
summer,
Oh my gosh. Hi. Look at that thing.
winter,
It's so cold.
and fall.
Got it.
Big one. That's awesome.
Being comfortable and staying dry is the only option.
AFCO. Any fish, any water.
When I'm in a tournament, conditions are constantly changing and every second matters. With the Deep Dive app, I can instantly pull up all the current lake conditions all in one spot. So no more looking at weird government websites. In just one quick glance, I have water clarity, water level, wave forecast. It's all right there in the Deep Dive app. Download the Deep Dive app and get all the tools you need to put together an awesome tournament.
As a professional angler, there's only one thing that connects you to your paycheck. Probably the most crucial part to tournament bass fishing. I use Sunline because they have a line for every application. Shooter, FX2, All Might, super light line, big stuff, big sticks. Sunline has you covered.
Sharp as can be. Super strong, super durable.
Really good penetration.
Thinner and stronger.
Catch fish after fish.
I want to make sure that I'm using the best stuff possible.
World's finest hook.
World's finest hook.
Gamakatsu. World's finest hook.
Hey guys, Brian Schmidt here with Spro. I'm going to talk to you about the confidence I have in the equipment I use. You know, I have a charter boat business back home in Maryland. We fish for saltwater fish, and I also fish the Bassmasters Elite Series. So I keep my lights on by fishing. I have to have a lot of confidence in the equipment I use. Spro has me covered from head to toe, saltwater, freshwater, everything in between. A lot of high-end quality product. Spro has you covered.
Welcome back, BTL with Mike McClelland. Did you see what Mr. Schmidt did this past weekend?
I did. In fact, I meant to text Brian, and it just slipped away from me. Yeah, it's, you know, when you go to that fishery, the guy is always going to be in the top five. I don't know if I've ever been there or watched an event that he's in that he isn't in the top five there and a threat to win.
Brian Schmidt is the winner of the Toyota Series on the Potomac River. He beat anytime you beat a guy whose last name is Fish, you've done something pretty special. Samuel Fish finished second in that one, but he went at stingy Potomac River 14-11, 15 even, and then 15-4. Mike, that is his fourth Toyota Series win on the Potomac and his seventh Toyota Series win overall.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. I mean, when you look at a guy's dominance, especially on, you know, what is kind of considered to be a home body of water. I mean, you know, there's not a lot of anglers, and, you know, they always talk about the home lake curse and various things that get guys, but he just understands that place. And when you go to a place like that where tidal flow is so critical, it means everything in the world. I was on After Dark with Ken Duke the other night, and you know, I maintained a record with bass of the most consecutive days without a tournament zero. And the 1-0 that finally broke that streak happened to me at the Potomac River. After making the top 50 cut, I tried to run the tide on the final day of the event, and I missed it everywhere I went. And I literally zeroed the final day of that event, or the cut day. And it can be a very, very hard body of water to understand, but if you do understand it and fish through the tides the way you need to fish through them, it makes all the difference in the world. And I think that's why Brian Schmidt has been so dominant. There's just his understanding of how those fish position at all phases of the tide, no matter where he's at on that place.
Anywhere in the country, if there is moving water, be it tide or current, and some form of vegetation, Brian Schmidt is the best angler in the world.
Yeah, and now he's at Champlain, another lake that he has an extremely good track record on. Getting ready to see if he can, possibly. Isn't he's fishing that event, right?
I don't know. I thought we weren't talking about that event.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying another place that's got grass.
Yep.
He's liable to come in with some big bags of largemouth at Champlain.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm talking, you can throw Pickwick into that mix. I would say Champlain has a lot more moving water than people give it credit for when it comes to wind current.
Wind current, yes.
Wind current moving through that. I'm talking Florida. Florida has a lot of sneaky current and things like that where they position. I mean, he is the best in the world. Like, there is no one historically who has done better on fisheries that have moving water and vegetation.
I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, but you are very right on that perspective of the thing.
Yeah.
You look at his
even Jody White from MLF, he agrees with me too.
Yeah.
If Jody White agrees with it too, then that's pretty much a done deal, because he's like his mind is like a steel trap on how guys have won tournaments at Toyota and invitational levels. All right, held up a bait before. That was the McDart.
Yeah, we, the Spro McStick's been around for years, but this is the newest addition to the Spro lineup, and we needed it, Matt. I mean, one thing about it, when I first started designing jerkbaits for Spro, we didn't have forward-facing sonar. We were old school fishing jerkbaits. It was all about cold water and less action in a jerkbait, and with forward-facing sonar and what we've learned about fish and how we learn now that, I mean, a jerkbait is a 12-month bait. I mean, you throw this thing from, the beginning of the year to the end of the year now, and we didn't have a jerkbait that was full of action. That could be fished shallower, and the McDart 110 allows you to do that. It's I'm going to call it a 0 to 6 foot bait. It is built to suspend, but by adjusting hook sizes, you can make the bait a floater diver. And, if you want to sink the bait, you can put bigger hooks on it. And I do that a lot. I know a lot of people ask, how do you adjust your suspendability on a jerkbait? And I do it with hooks. And, Gamakatsu has so many varieties of hooks, so many different styles of hooks that you can do everything you want to do with the hook change. I mean, if I want the bait to be, less buoyant, I go smaller. And if I'm going smaller, I always start at the back, because I always want this bait. I want the heaviest part of the bait to be on the nose. So I want the bait to set with a nose down cadence in the water.
Hold on. I'm going through all the colors. So do that with the full screen now. Show me how you want it to sit there again.
If I'm weighting the bait, I'm going to always put the lighter part or the lighter hooks on the back, because I want the bait to set nose down. Now, there are some guys that like to level their bait. I would always like my bait to set a little bit nose down. So when you jerk it and, it stops, it has that tendency to kind of dip down. And to me, that's a big deal. This bait, we move the bill forward on the placement and shorten the bill dramatically. So it makes the bait very erratic, very lively in the water. I know that's a term that David Fritz always used to use, when he talked about crankbaits, was lively. And this bait is full of action, full of life. We've got, I think, 14 or 15 of the best-selling colors that we've offered, and we added some new ones, last year. We've got, some of the traditionals, Nanko Reaction, Ghost Magic Purple. We've got Spawn Cherry, which, has been a big hit the last few years. One of my favorites, day in, day out, has always been Gray Ghost. It is just a real translucent bait, clear chartreuse looking bait. And then probably my favorite over the last couple of years has been Matte Shad. It is another one of those baits that's just, very translucent, very lifelike looking, natural. And but then we've got, you have got a Leggy Bone too, which is, that brighter, more bold bait. You got to.
How do you say it? I've always said LG.
Everybody says it different. LG bone, a leggy bone. I mean, it's truly, if you pronounce it the way it's written out, to me, it's a leggy bone.
I've never heard that before.
It just,
I mean, I'm not, you're Mike McClelland.
I-
I'm not gonna, but I've always thought I've always said LG, but I've always also looked at it and been like, I have no clue as to how to say that. It was kind of like in 2011 when Brandon Polinick won the Bass Nation Championship. No one knew how to say his last name. It took like 3 years, and then we had to go through it with Koya again too.
Yeah,
a couple years ago on it. What is the deal with that color though? So since that color has been around, it seems like that herringbone with the chartreuse on the belly and the purple on the top is the jerk baiter. Every single guy has that in his box, and it looks like nothing in the water.
Well, the whole thing, and I've always said this, when you look back at one of the most famous original jerkbait colors back in the cold water days of jerkbait fishing was table rock shad. It was a purple backed bait with chartreuse, pale chartreuse sides that just kind of flowed into a creamish chartreuse belly. And in reality, this to me is almost what you could consider a translucent version of that. I've always said, in my mind, purple turns gray in the water. A shad is gray. Chartreuse, I just think, is a color that it mutes in the water, but it also is a color that draws attention. So when you put gray and chartreuse together, it's two colors that get fish's attention. You know, the natural looking shad colors, but then you've got the chartreuse that goes along with it. But probably one of my favorite colors, and everybody's going to say I don't pronounce this right. The color name on this is actually wampum, but in my opinion, I just call it wampum because anytime I tie this one on, I wampum. I mean, it is a phenomenal color, and again, it's one of those pretty naturalistic colors. It's got a little bit of iridescent purple. It's hard to see it on the screen, but it's got some purple on the tail, and it's just a really cool color that catches them wherever you go. You absolutely whop feature.
That's a very cool feature.
Yeah. You
can see so answer me this then, Mike. And I've never really asked this question, but okay, I'm going to pull up the Rock Crawler 55s. If I'm looking at these colors, I see a lot of primary colors. I see a lot of bright. I see a lot of hard, like hard painted colors where there's no translucent. Now, obviously, there's a lot of rock colors that also have that. But if I go then back to the McDart colors or the McStick colors, like I don't see there's no like primary color. There's no like just a straight chartreuse and black or any of those type of colors. Why is it? And that's kind of jerkbaits as a whole. Why is it that like you don't really see very many primary hard colored jerk baits, whereas in all the other hard baits it's always very contrasting? Not so in the jerk bait field, and I don't think it's ever been that way, has it?
Well, I'm going to say that if you look at the McStick line, and when I said earlier we've got 14 of the best selling colors available in the McDart, or 15, I don't remember how many exactly it is. There are a couple of opaque baits. I think we have I just failed to grab one when I came in. We have got Natural Herring, which is a solid white bone bait with kind of a cream colored back or a greenish cream colored back. If you look at the standard McStick colors, there's a lot more opaque baits in it. It just seems like the last few years, some of the trending colors have been, the best selling colors have been the more natural colors. Do you see Natural Herring? I mean, Natural Herring and Norman Flake would be two baits in my mind that jump out as being those.
Yeah, there it is.
That's a solid, painted bait. It's got kind of a greenish olive back. It's a, bone pearl side, and it's a solid opaque bait. The thing about it is, it just seems like the last few years, the more translucent baits have sold better in the jerk baits. And I just think, you've got to be careful not to release too many colors all at once to make sure you don't have a lot of product sitting on the shelf. And, that's kind of the things that we have to stay on top of and track. And that's the reason you have sales reps that are out there, beating the streets every day, talking to their dealers, understanding what is selling the best. I think a lot of it, though, has to do with the conditions and where major tournaments get fished. I mean, if we fish a tournament on a body of water that's got more color, I mean, like last year at Rayburn, I threw primarily baits that were opaque. I caught them on natural herring, and I believe it was natural herring and Norman flake, because we got that dirty water that rolled in at Rayburn last year. And even Table Rock, when it gets a little off colored, I like the more opaque baits. When you get into those cloudier, darker day situations, a lot of wind, I like a bait that's got more opaque color to it. And it just seems like natural translucent baits have sold better the last few years. But I mean, even when you look at a Nanco Reaction, I mean, it's a solid chrome bait. It's not translucent at all. So we do have some baits that are solid color in the McStick and the McDart lineup.
Do you still do the thing where you add the split ring to the front hook?
If I need to add some, a minute amount of weight and need to, make the bait suspend or set different, I'll add one split ring to the front, and I just put it on the back side of the hook. If you look at the way the hook hangs, I always just add that additional split ring right here to the back of the hook. Yep. And it just gives you that ability to minutely adjust the weight on your jerkbait. And I still feel like, maybe not as much so when you're fishing a jerkbait in warmer water, especially when you're live scoping fish. But the way that bait suspends in the water, especially in cold water, when you're trying to get those fish to react to a bait that don't want to move aggressively, if that bait floats away from the fish, they're less likely to come get it than if it just sits there at the same depth range that they're setting at, in my opinion.
One more bait question that I didn't cover that I'm curious for my own personal reasons and for our viewers' reasons. How much on that jig, the big bite jig, are you varying your trailer on it, or is that a one trailer that you use all the time on that jig?
No, it's definitely a jig that, I'm going to do a lot of different things with it. One of my favorite trailers for, this jig when I'm throwing it in kind of a compact situation is the big bite 3-inch Fighting Frog.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite little trailers to put on this particular jig. The new bait that Fletcher Shyrock just designed for big bite, the FAFO, is a bait that I will utilize more in cold water. So, this is a jig that I feel like I can fish. It's a hybrid jig. It's a jig that you can fish in a lot of different scenarios and situations. You can fish it in, scattered grass. I've even pitch this jig a little bit in thicker grass, but it is a jig that you can truly fish throughout the year. So my trailers are going to vary based on, the time of the year and the action that I want to create. If I'm fishing this jig in post spawn, I may be throwing a full skirted 5/8 with a big bite,
little creature hog or something on it.
A creature or, a full size,
Yo Mama or something on it.
Or I'm just absolutely blanked right now. The Battle Bug, the bait that's designed for big bite that's kind of a cross.
Dude, I do that all the time now. I can't remember things. I'm like, I forgot my best friend's name the other day.
It's like, but it's that cross between a Fighting Frog and a creature bait. It's got the tentacles of a creature style bait, but it's got the flappers of a Fighting Frog. It's a real bulky presentation. So it all depends on where you're at. And one of the biggest misconceptions I think that everybody has right now in this day and age, that all forward facing sonar fishing is being done with a minnow. Yes, a minnow is an effective way to catch them. But I just experienced a day on Table Rock last week where I could not hardly get a group of fish to react to a minnow, but they would absolutely eat a jig. And I would swim a jig through these fish, whether they were in 3 foot of water over 40, or if they were close to stumps and brush, I could swim a jig over the top of them and get them to react, and they would not react to a minnow the same way. So, a jig is a bait that I use, with forward-facing sonar all the time. I mean, if I'm fishing brush and rock and points here at Table Rock, I'm not just out there dragging it around hoping to get a bite. I'm looking for fish, and I'm fishing the jig the way I need to fish it to catch those fish that I'm seeing on live scope. So, and the same goes for jerk baiting and crank baiting. I mean, you brought up the rock crawler a while ago. I'm going to say 85 or 90% of my casts that I make with a rock crawler now, I'm making because I saw a rock on the bottom, or I saw a piece of brush, or I saw a lay down to allow me to throw that bait at it. I'm not saying you can always see the fish prior to catching them, but you're at least throwing your bait where you need to be throwing it with the use of Garmin Live Scope. I mean, it's a huge deal, regardless of how you're fishing. I mean, you mentioned it the other night in our conversation. Even when you're fishing boat docks in 3 to 5 foot of water, you can literally watch those fish come out from under the floats and off the docks if they're suspended on them, and follow your bait. So it's no matter what kind of fishing you're doing, Live Scope is utilized day in, day out by guys who really understand it.
It's going to be super fascinating because on the flip side, I think there was a time period where a lot of the guys, and it's still to this day, are not making casts that they would have made without forward-facing sonar because it does not appear that anything is there. But there's also a group of guys who understand that they're in the area and a fish's belly is on the bottom, it's really hard to find it. So you're seeing another group of anglers, several of which are at the EQs this week while we sit here at home, who have figured out, even though it looks like the Sahara Desert and I make a cast, I can we call it, I call it manufacturing. You can show a fish that isn't there. Yeah. So there's this weird learning time period. This is just me hypothesizationing this, where a lot of fish were there that we didn't think were there because, hey, we're not making a cast. We're trying to be more efficient if we don't live scope, but those fish are on the bottom and you're drawing them up. So the fact that you're panning under the docks and you're looking at banks and you're not seeing anything and not making those casts or fishing it, that could be costing you. You're saying that could be costing you fish, just like it is where you're making a cast that you wouldn't have made a cast to because you either saw a fish or you saw a hard spot or you saw a rough spot or a little stob or something like that. But that there's also something to be said for casting where you don't think they're a fish, where you have no idea that you're pulling fish off of that you can't see on the live scope that are on the bottom, which is the going down the bank theory too. So it'll be fascinating once we get into the split schedule, on the Elite Series, on the Opens. We've seen it a little bit on MLF. The Every Fish Counts format's a little bit different than the 5 fish format, but I think there's a lot more anglers who don't consider themselves forward-facing gurus who over the last 5 years have subconsciously incorporated it into their game plans, whether they are power fishing, whether they are out over open water, and don't realize how much they utilize boat positioning, casting angles, and little things with the crankbait, with the jig, with even a spinnerbait, any of the traditional things. And there's going to be that moment where they're like, oh, whoa, I didn't realize subconsciously. I didn't think I was live scoping. Like if someone had said, did you scope them? No, man, I did it like a damn man. I went down the bed. But there were elements of that forward-facing technology because it has been a tool at the disposal, and all good anglers learn how to incorporate that to accentuate their strengths to where you'll have that moment where you're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize how much of a player this actually was and game plan it actually was as far as the who, what, when, where, and why, not just the see fish, cast fish, catch.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I had this exact conversation. I went and got my Mercury serviced yesterday afternoon, had the oil changed and the gear lube done. And of course, all the guys at the shop I went to, fish a lot. And we were talking about the fact that the tournaments are going to be split next year, and they were asking me, my thoughts on it. And I'm like, I'm looking forward to it because I truly do just enjoy going down the bank, fishing the way that we always fished. But I'm like, at Leech, I fished grass the whole time we were at Leech. but everything you just mentioned is 100% true. There was scattered grass and there was a mat of grass, but it was not all the way to the surface. So you couldn't see it with your eyeballs, but there was a portion of the milfoil that literally was the thickest band due to the depth range it was growing in. And you had an inside line and an outside line of scattered. And it was very critical that you be flipping your bait into the thickest portion of the grass. And without forward-facing live scope from Garmin, I would have had to have literally set directly on top of that mat with 2D to be able to tell I was there. But by utilizing forward-facing sonar, I could keep my boat in the scattered grass and allow myself to maneuver around a lot quieter and pitch to the matted grass the whole time I was effectively fishing. And it is, I mean, even today, I mean, and it doesn't happen very often, and I'm sure you've experienced it too. When you go out and you turn on your live scope and for some reason, maybe it doesn't come on, or for some reason you're without live scope, you feel like you've lost one of the most valuable tools in your boat all of a sudden. 5 years ago, you would have never thought about it. But today, if my live scope isn't working, and sometimes it's just, a glitch in the system, it has to be reset or something. But I mean, I like freak out when I can't turn my live scope on. So it is going to be unique to see how all of us truly do. And, the guys that are fishing, the Bass Pro Tour right now, they've had to learn to go back to that, okay, I get to use it for one period, but I've got to shut it off. I've not been in that situation now for a number of years. I mean, as much as I would hate to, not admit it, even when I have had my best events, Santee Cooper last year, I truly could tell the cypress trees that I was more likely to get bit around, even though I wasn't necessarily seeing the fish I was catching. There was life around it. There was activity. I could see bait. I could see brim. I could see movement around the cypress trees that I caught fish on. So it's definitely going to change the way you have to approach things, not being able to look at live scope.
So that's fascinating you brought that up, because I sucked at Santee Cooper when we were there last time. And I was in an area where a lot of guys caught bags. And I went up, I knew a couple of those guys afterwards. And in practice, I was doing the same thing. That was back when we could have multiple deucers. So I had one in perspective and one in forward. And it was easy to see. You'd see, fish around the cypress tree, pitch a hookless bait in there, boom, swim off with it. My God, I'm going to catch 25 pounds. Little conditions change, windy, a little bit more pressure, come back in the tournament. There's 8, 10, 15 boats around. There were a couple guys who I knew, I watched big fish get caught off cypress trees that I thought were big fish on, but because I scoped it and didn't see them, I was pitching a wacky Cinco and a drop shot to them. And I went up after the tournament and I said, okay, tell me to go get lost if I want to, but what were you doing the difference? And every single one of them, they weren't scoping the trees, but they were dragging a Texas rig around the base of the trees. And it was because of live scope that I went there and went, I don't know where this fish went. Oh my God, all my fish are off of my trees. And they went and they fished, and those fish had sunk down into those cypress roots to where they weren't obvious. They weren't easy. They didn't look like the glowing ball. They were still there. But because of that, I completely bailed on 2 key areas where there were multiple top 10s out of. And I just think that was interesting. If I had turned it off and just been fishing, I would have been way less likely to be fishing a drop shot at a wacky and more likely to be able to feel where the knees were and all that stuff. And it's crazy how, that's where I think there's a lot of skill and a lot of decision-making and things involved with that. Cause that, I mean, without a doubt cost me, without a doubt helped you.
Yeah, it did. But I mean, again, I truly understood the trees that I would get bit around. And the same thing, happened this year at the Tom Bigby. I mean, and I go back to these because these are the 2 good finishes I've had the last couple of years, as bad as I hate to say that. But even at the Tom Bigby this year, I mean, you know how we fish there. But when I was fishing there, I mean, every fish I caught was in less than 2 or 3 foot of water. But every time I would get bit in an area, there was bait present just outside where I was actually catching the fish. There were little things and hints that live scope told me that allowed me to slow down and say, okay, there's a lot of bait around here. I need to really slow down and pick this section of reeds apart. And, you know, it was a tough event this year. I don't know if you didn't fish the Tom Big Beer, did you? Did
Thank
you fish
God,
the Tom?
no.
Yeah, I mean,
Division 2.
You know, it was just an old grinder event. And, you know, I caught, I don't know, 8 to 15 keepers a day. And, you know, I just put my head down. And when I got in those right areas, I just put my head down and flipped a tube and got it done, you know.
I wonder how much of the Garmin Live Scope sales are based on tournament anglers versus just recreational anglers. It'd be interesting to see, like, if that even impacts their sales, you know, the restrictions, the changes, the talk about it at the tournament level, or if
I absolutely don't think it's going to affect their sales.
Yeah,
it's just like I said earlier, I love to go out and just play with live scope. It is so fascinating to understand how much different these fish react to baits, how much more they move than we used to think they moved. I mean, I chased a group of fish around on a big flat yesterday for an hour. And I mean, they were moving like you were talking about a lake you go to that they just swim all the time.
They're way more coordinated. Like, they're more like the killer whales, like when they're tracking it. No, I'm serious. Have you not noticed that, where you're like, oh my God, this is a coordinated effort, like to where they're getting it where they wanted to. They're way more intense. It's not just a random brainless thing swimming around trying to crack anything that's moving in the water. Like, they work together.
Yeah, they're literally herding bait all the time. And it's like when they finally get that bait all positioned the way they want it, then they go in and they have a field day. They feast.
I picture there's like one lead bass. He goes, and go.
That is how it feels. And just like, you know, you mentioned earlier, you know, when you finally get one fish to react, then it's like the whole group of them is all of a sudden interested in eating your bait too. You know, if you can get that one to react, it's like it goes down. And but no, getting back to what you just said, the sales, I mean, just for the sheer fact that pan fishermen and crappie fishermen are having so much more success utilizing live scope now, I don't see the sales ever slowing down when it comes to forward facing sunlight. I mean, it's just something that everybody utilizes, whether they really believe they do or not today, if you have it.
I got one more wild story, and then I'll let you go. Holy cow, we're an hour and 40 minutes in. I was at 10 Killer earlier this year in the spring, and I was just fun fishing. I was doing some recording, but no tournament, no practice, nothing. I was just out there, and I got a school of 100 13 inchers mix, smallmouth spots, largemouth, from 13 inches to 3.5 pounds under a massive canopy of bait. It was like one of those where you turn and you're like, well, what's wrong with the live scope?
Yeah.
And then you realize it's bait, but they're under it. So they had them positioned to where, like, they were right under it and they weren't going anywhere. It wasn't like open water, had them in the back of an area. And like first 8 casts, instant, boom, 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 fish. And you'd pull some fish and the bait would kind of disperse, and then they'd pack back up. And after probably catching 10 or 12 of them, all different sizes, the minnow would start going down and you'd see them turn and go away. So I'm literally casting in 50 actively feeding fish underneath a ball of bait. Cannot get a bite now. And I go probably 10 minutes without a bite. Yeah. And the first one I rolled up, it was everything. I'm like, did they get inactive or anything? So I pick a jerk bait up and I'm trying to get him, and I jerk down and I hook a shad. It's a 3.5, 4 inch shad. I said, I'm just curious on this. So I took my plastic minnow off. I hooked the shad through the lips of the jig head, and I pitched out the exact same cast, the exact same area that I had just been ignored for 10 minutes. And as soon as that shad got below the school, bum rush. Yeah. And I mean, it was instant. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like those fish, and so I picked the jerk bait up, snagged another shad, hooked it up, pitched it down. As soon as, you know, I've got it on a jig head, right? So it's this half-life shad falling. As soon as it got below, zoom, another one. I did it 4 times on 4 casts and caught 4 fish instantly. The entire school would then follow me back. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I've got a bait that's the exact size as the bait that they're doing. I could make that cast 50 times and maybe catch 1. I put the real thing on it. I'd never done that before. Like, I mean, I've never fished with the live shad before because I'm a lot of time practicing for a tournament. You just don't end up in those situations. It was scary and intriguing and shocking how you're like, well, how do they know? I mean, it's on a 1/4 ounce head and it's this big and it's just going right past them. They would maul the live one in 0.5 seconds and not even react to the plastic one. And it looks the same exact way.
This is my theory on that. And you can agree or disagree, but I think it's valid. We were never able to present a bait to the same group of fish over and over because we never could track that same group of fish. So in years past, even when we were just out throwing a swim bait, you know, knowing there were fish in the area, we weren't ever presenting it to the same group of fish over and over. It was constantly a new group of fish that were seeing your bait. And that's the reason, you know, your success rate stayed up. And I think that's the reason that guys are really successful live scopers continue to move all the time. They want to find new fish all the time. I mean, these fish, and I know Greg Hackney told me a long time ago that we put bass on a pedestal, and you can't do that. You know, they're dumb as a box of rocks. Well, they do get educated. They do get tuned into what's going on. I mean, it's just like I was talking about jerkbait fishing yesterday. Every year we come out with new colors of jerkbaits. That is the color that I catch them on the best. I think it's just fish get accustomed to seeing specific colors, specific size baits. And that's the reason so often that a guy that does well in a tournament is catching them on something different and unique. It's just like the dice. The dice will run its course. All of these baits that have, you know, appendages on them, that's the new, latest, greatest phase of plastic bait. I mean, man, do you remember when the French fry first came out? When
Mark Jeffries was obsessed with the chartreuse neon pepper French fry on a Carolina rig. He literally would not fish for the first 3 years I worked with him unless he was throwing a French fry.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just like every time that we have something new and unique hit this industry, it is what we catch them on the best for a while. And, you know, it's really interesting now to me how many old school baits kind of in my mind are starting to play a little bit again. I mean, a jig day in, day out. And I mean, there's a couple of kids on the tour that use a jig live scoping. I'm going to say 80% of the time.
But a jig is dice, Mike.
Well, yeah, I guess a jig is dice. You're pretty well right.
A jig is dice.
It's dice. Yeah, you're pretty much right. Especially if you trim it right. But it's one of those situations that there are a lot of old school baits that are kind of starting to come back into the mix a little bit. I mean, I caught fish on, you know, a variety of baits the other day that I hadn't thrown in a while. And
I'll tell you what, this is the one I've noticed.
The buzzbait?
Yeah. There's been more buzzbait that have played, maybe not for the whole win, but I've noticed the last year and a half, like guys will be like, you know, I caught him scoping, but I also caught one on a buzzbait.
Yeah. No, I
popper one on it.
Yeah, I caught fish on a buzzbait. Every time I've been out the last week, I have caught fish on a buzzbait if the conditions, you know, have been right to allow me to throw it. And
dude, can't talk jigs. I got to show this. So I found this gem. You remember Chad Griffin, who won on the 20-pound test fluorocarbon and the Zell Pop on Oneida?
Yeah.
And he had the jig company. I found this gem. I found the old 1 ounce Chad Griffin easy jig.
Easy jig, yeah.
His football head jig that's going up into the archives with all the baits.
Yeah. But no, you just look at the things that guys are doing with live scope and forward facing sonar. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think it is cool that these circuits are at least, you know, putting a spin on it for, not just for the angler, but for the fans. I mean, I'm sorry, Matt. I mean, I love to catch smallmouth. But honestly, after you've caught so many smallmouth on a spinning rod, it's kind of cool to catch one on a crankbait or a jerkbait or something different. And I think the fans want to see that as much as we as anglers like to catch one on a different bait. I mean, dude, have you ever caught smallmouth on a buzzbait? You talk about fun.
No, now,
there's a time or two, back before forward-facing sonar when we were all traditionally fishing, that I remember catching them on a buzzbait up at Champlain and a couple other of those lakes on a buzzbait. And I mean, you talk about ferocious. I mean, when a smallmouth eats a buzzbait, it's Katie bar the door. So, it's just cool, I think, for the fan, the angler, and everybody to get to see a lot of different baits throughout the industry get utilized. And we've seen a lot more of that this year in tournaments. We really have.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you're I hate every time I go to a different website. Like I pull up Bassmaster, they have the instant video that starts playing with audio, and you're like, what the hell's going on? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, and I was about to wrap it up with a really nice wrap up. I was about to say, it looks like you're still having fun doing this, designing baits, traveling across the country, and can't wait to see you. Are you going to the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame banquet, which is coming up in a week or two? It's not that far.
I actually am, as bad as I hate to say it, I will probably miss it due to the fact that, I mean, when you put a $500,000 purse or $1 million purse with a $500,000 winner take for first, I've got to go put my time in. So I'm actually going to go down to Guntersville Sunday, which will take me out of town during the Hall of Fame banquet. I've attended most all of them for the past few years. I did donate a trip and a jersey. So if anybody wants to bid on that, we can hook up and go Table Rock, Bull Shoals, whatever suits your style. And I want to do what I can to help support and promote the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame.
I believe that auction opens on September 22nd, which is the Monday. I am planning a BTL Bass Fishing Hall of Fame auction show that kind of highlights some of the trips and things that people like you and other people are donating. So, all right. Hopefully I didn't completely ruin your morning bite.
Yeah, the morning bite's over by now, and I'm actually preparing. It's get ready to go to Guntersville now, so I'm going to do a few things in the garage, prepare some tackle, get I got to kind of look at this one a little different. No forward-facing sonar, so there's going to be a lot more old-school baits in the boat this week.
Very nice. All right, Mike McClelland, thank you for your time.
Always good. Enjoy it, man.
See ya. All right, the one and only Mike McClelland on an hour and 48 minutes. Sorry, Mike. The good shows always go like way longer than I think, and then I look up and then I'm like, oh gosh, I told him an hour. This has been another edition of BTL. Same time, same place tomorrow. Q&A tomorrow. I have some thoughts over the past couple weeks. We had the Chase Anderson interview that's down. Q&A if you have any questions or want to have your opinion voiced. I might even open up the StreamYard video /phone line. So this has been another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. We'll talk to everyone later. See ya.